Now to this.
The dreaded.
In a new interview released this morning, you know who told Time magazine what he would do if he gets back in the White House. Things like this. He's going to let states monitor a woman's pregnancy.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
He's going to deploy the military to deport migrants.
And the Mexicans are going to pay for it.
And he's going to absolutely consider pardoning January 6 rioters.
Of course.
Now, he was also asked if he thinks there will be political violence if he loses, and he answered, it depends.
Is he referring to something he was wearing?
You're on fire already.
You know? So is this, I mean, there's also, this is my favorite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you before I say it that it enraged me. There is a definite anti-white feeling in the country right now.
Oh, please.
Yeah, that's what he said. You know, sir.
No. Sir.
Yeah, sir. Nobody in your family was hung. Nobody in your family was chased because of the color of their skin. How dare you? There's no anti-white issue here. You are perpetrating anti-humanist issues here.
That was, of course, Whoopi Golberg on ABC's The View, and she's responding there to an interview that Donald Trump did with Time magazine, a couple interviews, a deep dive that Time did into Trump and then also advisors around him and getting a sense of what would happen. This is the title of the piece, if he wins, what this is called from Time, and it goes through a pretty horrifying image of what a second term could look like through the lens of Trump interviews and interviews with advisors and confidants. And so we'll go through a few different moments. You heard Whoopi Goldberg mention some of the stuff there. I will say that we talked about already the abortion rights related questions and answers where Trump shot himself in the foot. So that was in a different segment. Now we're going to go through some of this other stuff. Before getting into particular moments, the author did a sort of 30,000 foot retrospective and summarized in what I'm about to read you what was learned from these interviews with Trump and those around him. Here it is. What emerged in 2 interviews with Trump and conversations with more than a dozen of his closest advisors and confidants were the outlines of an imperial presidency that would reshape America and its role in the world, to carry out a deportation operation designed to remove more than 11 million people from the country. Trump told me he would be willing to build migrant detention camps and deploy the U.S. military both at the border and inland. I'm going to pause your viewing of this video super quickly to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button, and right next to it is the join button, so you can become a member to get the daily bonus show by clicking that join button. Back to the video. He would let red states monitor women's pregnancies and prosecute those who violate abortion bans. He would, at his personal discretion, withhold funds appropriated by Congress, according to top advisors. He would be willing to fire a U.S. attorney who doesn't carry out his order to prosecute someone. And he's been promising to prosecute his political opponents, so that would definitely happen, breaking with a tradition of independent law enforcement that dates from America's founding. He's weighing pardons for every one of his supporters accused of attacking the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, more than 800 of whom have pleaded guilty or been convicted by a jury. He might not come to the aid of an attacked ally in Europe or Asia if he felt that the country wasn't paying enough for its own defense. He would gut the U.S. Civil Service, deploy the National Guard to American cities as he sees fit, close the White House Pandemic Preparedness Office, which is a great idea given recent events, and staff his administration with acolytes to back his false assertion that the 2020 election was stolen. So we have talked a lot about, based on what Trump did in trying to block the peaceful transfer of power, things he wanted to do that failed because too many people around him didn't want to go along with it, and loyalists in those positions could have allowed for it to happen, which would happen a second term, and things he said that indicate his ambitions for a second term. And some of this is speculation, right? Very justified speculation. But here, what I just read to you is the author saying, based on our conversation, what they're willing to admit to me, I can document this, which is crazy, crazy stuff, not to mention what they're not willing to admit. Now, to go through some of these key moments, Mediaite did a good write-up summarizing this extensive piece for a few moments from it. Let's start with this quote. There's a definite anti-white feeling in the country, and that can't be allowed either, Trump said. And obviously all forms of racism are bad. The thing he's pushing, though, is this broader right-wing narrative about how the real issue in the country right now is anti-white racism, which I thought Whoopi Goldberg had an absolutely spot-on response to. Also, I'll add to her response that isn't it interesting the contradiction that we see from Republicans on this issue, where it was so un-American, according to them, to ever say that we had an issue with racism. And you would hear people like Nikki Haley say, we've never been a racist country. Yeah. But now they're saying we're a racist country, but it's just against white people. So is it unpatriotic to disparage the United States like that? Or is it not? Because there's definitely some hypocrisy going on there. But also a pretty ridiculous narrative more broadly. Then you have this. Trump did not dismiss the potential of violence around the upcoming presidential election, claiming it will come down to the fairness of the election. Quote, if we don't win, it depends, he said. It always depends on the fairness of the election. Trump did not elaborate on this point and instead echoed past accusations that President Joe Biden is behind his legal trouble. So then he moved on to ramble about his normal things. When you get asked about violence potentially happening and your response is, well, it depends. Election has to be fair. Or you obfuscate and you try to avoid answering the question, you are, especially with the record of some of Trump's followers and with Trump's rhetoric on violence promoting sort of language, that is extremely, extremely dangerous. And that does terrify me, what we're headed into. I want Biden to win so badly. And even in the positive scenario of this election, where that happens, we still have a really frightening element involved, which is the backlash that could happen because of Trump's dangerous rhetoric and his followers' dedication to him. The former president claimed, media continues, Biden and others are greater threats to the United States than foreign adversaries. Quote, I think the enemy from within, in many cases, is much more dangerous for our country than the outside enemies of China, Russia, and various others. And that's a part of the straying away from patriotism of the MAGA Republican Party, because I think a patriotic sentiment would be, we can all disagree within our country and we can have huge disagreements, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We can unite around that. And especially we unite around that common set of principles and common identity whenever it comes to engaging with our adversaries worldwide. But now that's gone away within MAGA, where you see the sentiment, and this is on shirts with some MAGA folks, of I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat. And we're seeing the loyalty to the type of ideology that manifests in the Putin regime from MAGA, where they're trying to prevent aid into Ukraine and are telling a lot of the very same lies we hear on the part of Putin and the Kremlin. And that, I think, is a part of this detachment from a dedication to, at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and that's something we can unite around. And that is something MAGA is attempting to deteriorate. And then also a similar thing happens when it comes to the idea that before, left-wingers criticizing America, issues in America, would be called America hating. And you're not patriotic because you think that so many things are bad here, you might as well just go away. And now Trump's whole speeches are him just saying how horrible the United States has become and saying we're a laughingstock. And he'll say we were once a great nation. We're no longer great. And he'll call us the terminology, the outdated terminology he uses, is the third world country now. And we're a country that's gone to hell, etc. Right? That's like his whole ending to his speeches when the music plays. It's all strange. And that is very different characteristically than what we used to see in the Republican Party. And then I want to show you a little bit more from this conversation on The View.
Trump, in his own words, saying these scary things, but I wasn't as taken aback as I should be, because for the last 4 years, myself, others who spoke out against him have been saying literally line by line what he's saying in his own words in this piece. And it is devastating to me that that is not resonating with Republicans, a party I've been a member of my whole life, that they're just not believing it. The other day, Bill Barr, the former attorney general, was asked about something I had stated where Trump said that somebody should be executed because they leaked a bad story about him. And he basically was like, I don't recall that. But on other occasions, he said stuff like that. But we shouldn't take him literally. No, the things he says we should take literally. And I've said this 1,000 times. There won't be guardrails next time. There won't be Mark Esper. There won't be John John Kelly,
he
there
says
won't
in
be
the
Jim
opening of
Mattis.
that article.
He says he's going to only hire loyalists and people who say that the last election is stolen. So he's admitting he's going to staff a White House and the entire federal government with either liars or lunatics. It is very scary, and I just want to underscore, because I want Trump to lose. He and Joe Biden are neck and neck. It is very real that in 7 months we will wake up to President-elect Donald Trump, and that should be scary for every American.
It is scary.
Yeah, great points there from Alyssa Farah Griffin. And why would we voluntarily omit things that Trump says just because we think he's not being serious? Can't we just treat him like an adult, assume he's being serious when he speaks, and take him at face value and vote accordingly? And also, we don't have to hear what he says to see what he tried to do. Again, quite literally trying to end our democracy through schemes like the fake elector scheme that would have kept someone in power despite losing an election. And that's enough for him to be disqualified. Not to mention, on top of it, him saying he wants to do even worse things somehow. And all the people bending over backwards to, again, omit certain things just because, I don't know. Doesn't seem like he would actually be able to do that. Someone would probably stop him. How about we just stop him ourselves by voting against him? Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments.